الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He grants us tawfiq and that He teaches us that which will benefit us, that He benefits us in that which He teaches us, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mercy upon the deceased and He gives us the best of khatimah and the best of endings. This is our second session where we're looking at this book from Shaykh Muhammad in Uthaymeen, where he's asked a series of questions on al-Janazah, 70 questions on the Janazah. But like we said last week, and as we saw also last week, it's not just about the Salat al-Janazah, it's everything which is connected to the rights of the deceased when they have passed away, or even before they passed away. And we looked at 5 questions last week. And I think inshallah today we'll continue with a number of questions that are on the topic of Salah. Most of these questions today are on the topic of Salah. Today though we've got a larger audience, younger audience, and I think they want to practice the shrouding and the washing again. We didn't do shrouding actually, so maybe we can do shrouding today. And there are some questions here on the Salah, so we can demonstrate and role play that as well. So then we need a person that is going to be our deceased person. So come here then. Alright, Isan. You need to come and lie down. So I'm not going to do anything. This is a test to see if you guys can remember what we have to do. So now the person is about to pass away. He hasn't passed away just yet. What do we do with this person? Yeah. Remind him to say La ilaha illallah. Good. Remind him to have the dhikr of Allah and have good thoughts of Allah. And that can come about by dhikr, that can come about by you reciting Quran as well. But the Shaykh says the best thing for a person to do is to do La ilaha illallah. Some people, they focus on the reciting Surah Yasin. And this is the first question that the Shaykh was asked. And inshallah, the Shaykh says, لَكِّنُوا مَوْتَاكُمْ بِلَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. This is what the hadith of the Messenger of Allah is. Remind your dying people with La ilaha illallah. And this is what we should stick to. However, as the Shaykh said, if the person has said La ilaha illallah and they're still alive, what do you do after that? Engage in dhikr, engage in reciting of the Quran, or reciting Quran over them so that they can hear, etc. Anything which is khair. That's the first. The second thing, what do we remind this person? Yeah? Which is really important actually. How is he going to read Quran? Maybe he can read Quran. But that's included in the first one anyway. Dhikr of Allah. Yeah.
Remind him of the good thing that
Barakallahu feek. Now we want to him increase in having hope. His connection to the dunya is very, very weak. It's flimsy. He's about to leave. Where's he going? He's going back to Allah. He's going back to a place where there is no action. And it's only recompense. So now what we need for this person to do is increase in having hope, because he's still able to do some actions of the heart. Those are the only actions that he has left. Maybe of the tongue, so we're saying do the dhikr of Allah. Maybe he can't even do that. Maybe you're saying La ilaha illallah. He can hear you, he's conscious, he's alive, but he can't respond. His body is not able to respond with the qadr of Allah. So what do we want? We want his heart to move instead. Reliance, sabr, hope, tawbah, istighfar. Right, so now the person has passed away. Allah give you a long life, Ihsan. What do we do with the deceased? First thing that we have to do, yeah?
You have to wash him.
Before that. In Surah Al-Qiyamah, we recited this last week, yeah?
You have to cover him.
Before that.
Take off the clothes and stuff.
Before that. He's nice and tidy right now. But let's say, for example, he dies in a car accident or something like that, Ibrahim. Yeah?
Put him in a place that's where he's nice and
We straighten out his body.
Yeah.
We put his feet together, put his hands in, and we try to put his jaw up, and we keep him as still and straight as we can. Now he's then transported to the place where the ghusl is going to take place. Now we are ready to do the ghusl. Don't be scared that he's moving his hands. He's not a zombie or something. You need to stay really still, otherwise you're going to get people scared. What do we do now with the ghusl? We're now ready to do the ghusl. Yeah? What's the first thing?
You have to wash him everywhere.
First thing. Yeah.
Make him do it.
First thing.
I'll take off his clothes and cover him.
Cover the aura. Protect the aura. Yeah? Second thing. Step 2. Yeah.
You wash him?
Before you wash, what's inside of his body?
Oh,
You have to take out what's inside of his body. How do we do that, Ibrahim?
You pat his stomach.
You know, this is actually very important, yeah? This actually happened a couple of years ago where the sisters were doing a washing, right? And some of the sisters were taking lead and other sisters were not. And some of those who were taking lead, they were saying, oh, this is not from the sunnah, there's no hadith for this, there's no that for this. When it comes to washing, yes, there are certain things that we know from the religion, but then there are certain things which are better for the deceased. There are certain things which are better for the deceased. So a person can easily say, well, there is no proof to do that you press something down. Some of the ulama in the madhahib, like we said, they said put a brick or a small, something weighty on the stomach for a little while so that it can press down and then squeeze everything out. Some of them said other things. Others have said, we didn't mention this last week, but others have said once you have done that, you've pushed down. Another thing that have been mentioned in the books of fiqh is that you make them sit up a bit and then come down again. So basically like semi-sit-ups, so that we're trying to move everything out. It could be from the mouth, could be from the throat, or it could be from the other passages. So they've said that. Where's the dalil for that? You won't find anything from the kitab and the sunnah on that. This is very important because some people say, no, kitab, sunnah, kitab, sunnah, kitab, sunnah. One brother in this masjid, he broke off from the jama'ah, Salat al-Tarawih. He said, the Prophet ﷺ only prayed 11 for Tarawih in Ramadan. So when you're doing the second jama'ah at night time, not got nothing to do with it. So I said, Akhi, listen, this is one of the reasons why we had that playlist. Akhi, listen, it's an issue of flexibility. Majority of the ulama have said, pray, increase in the last 10 nights. Stand up all night. Doesn't matter how many rak'ahs you're praying, stand the whole night. That's what ahya layla. This is the sunnah. He said, no, but what did he actually do? It doesn't work like that always. I said to him, what did he say? Salatul layl mathna mathna, wa ahya layla. So we can go back and forth in this way, but the person is very rigid in saying, no, sunnah, 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 sunnah. And that's good, don't get me wrong. But my point here is that the religion, the fuqaha and ijtihad is more rounded. And there are principles and there are factors and there are maxims and there are so many different things that you need to take into consideration. So now the fuqaha mentioned it. You might find somebody saying, well, there's no dalil for it. But this is what a person should do. Another thing actually that has been mentioned, this has actually got a salaf to it. At the time of, I believe, Hassan bin Ali, what they used to do is they used to get small pieces of cloth, and after they had, pushed everything out, they used to plug the holes so that nothing of najasa comes out now, because now we've emptied the body, we secure the body, now we are ready to wash. And you'll find some people practicing this until today, and there is a salaf for it, like we have said, and they use cotton buds and things, and cotton wool and things like that. So that's step number 2. We're pushing, we're clearing, we're securing. Now we are ready to do what? Wash. Before that, what we're doing is wudu, right? What kind of water are we using? We're not using cold water, we're not using hot water, we're using lukewarm water. Yeah, we didn't mention that last week either. And we're mixing the water with sidr. We're mixing the water with sidr. So now we wash. We do wudu. Okay, so before we do the sidr and water, we do wudu with normal water. Because we've got to wash the mouth out and the nose out, but again, we're not pouring in because we don't want water to go back into the body. So you will find people using like a swab or even like cotton buds. They'll wet it and then they'll just do the madmada in that way, and then they'll do the nostrils in that way. But then a person will say, well, where's the sunnah for that? So we've addressed that already. So now what we'll do is we'll wash the hands, the mouth and nose, and then we'll do wudu basically, yeah? Then we're doing ghusl, and our deceased looks really relaxed right now. He's gone in a very good place, mashallah. Allah give you husn khatimah. So we're using sidr and water. How are we going to do the ghusl? Does somebody want to come and show us how to do the ghusl? Yeah? Come on then, wash him. If you want. We've already got a recording, it's up to you, it's fine. Give me your hands, yeah, right, put it down, put it side by side. Okay, now this is actually quite important here, you know why, yeah? What side are we going to begin with?
Right.
Who's right? His right, so we're going to start on this side, so you're on the wrong side. So you wash this side with water and sidr, yeah? You can use shampoo, you can use shower gel and all that. There's nothing wrong with that. You will find people using that as well. But then again, a person will say, where's the dalil for that? So, I mean, the reason why I keep mentioning this is because quite often there's a lot of chefs and there's a lot of cooks. I don't know what the phrase is, but there's a lot of people that try and say what they want. And actually, there's a question on that later on, which is, who takes charge? I'm going to look at what the Shaykh, we might as well say it now. The ulama have said, if we're talking about the Salat, then the Imam of the masjid has more right to lead the Salat al-Janazah than anyone else. Not the father, not the brother, not anyone else. Because here, the Imam of the masjid is the Imam. Nobody can come and say, right, I'm going to lead this Salah. If it's in the Musalla, sorry, that's if it's in the masjid. If it's in the Musalla, again, the Imam should have precedence. Unless, the Shaykh says, unless if there is a will. So if our deceased writes that in my will, I want my father to lead the Salah, or my brother to lead the Salah, we have to respect that. It's wajib for us to respect that. Even if there are better people present, we have to stick to that. Unless, obviously, the will has got something haram in it or whatever. And then the third scenario, where the Shaykh says, is that if there's no will, and the Imam, there is no Imam, or the Imam is relaxed on it, then anyone can lead it. So it's the same thing here when we're talking about washing. If the deceased is left behind a will and says, I want representatives from Masjid Tayyiba or Masjid Furqan or any other masjid to do my washing and I don't want anybody else to do it, that has to be respected. And what's sad is that you will take the body to, I don't know, to any other masjid, and they'll have their own people there, and then they'll start doing it instead. And that's haram. The will has to be respected. So now, our deceased, do you will for Muhammad to wash you? You can speak, yeah? Right, so now his soul has been returned, and he has said yes. So now you're going to be doing the washing, Muhammad. So now he's aligned the body, which is good. He's going to empty the stomach. Empty the stomach. Yeah, okay. Careful. Yeah, that's it. Now gently put him down. You might want to press the stomach. Yeah, we're presuming that the aura is covered, right? At this point as well, you might want to cover your left hand. Cover your left hand with, just pretend that your left hand is covered. And you need to wash his private parts. Do you want to do that, or do you want his dad to do that? Let's just assume that you've done that. Yeah, okay, right. Now we're doing wudu. So we start with the hands, so we do wudu. You want to do wudu? Very quickly. Wash the hands. Other hand. 3 times. Mouth and nose. Mouth and nose. How are you going to do mouth and nose? Were you listening before? Huh? How do you do mouth and nose? Yeah, you get like a stick or something. So you just use that. Like that, exactly. And then use the mouth, right? And then the rest of the wudu, okay? Now we are going to do ghusl with water and sidr. So now, so now you wash on the right. Okay, so wash on the right and wash on the left. Okay, now the question is now, how are you going to wash his back? Not quite, but like that. But you have to be gentle. Right? So Ihsan, come back. So that's why sometimes you have 2 people, yeah? So what we'll do is we'll pull him towards me gently, and then we wash that side. Well, we do it this way first, isn't it? Because we're doing the right side. So we wash his back this side, and then we wash his back this side, and then that's it. We put him together again. And then we wash him one time again without water, without sidr, just with water. Now we're ready to do the perfuming. So we've got perfume. Where do we do perfume? Either we could do the whole body, or we do the places of wudu, up to the elbows. So I'm starting from the right. Face, feet. Or if you can't do any of that and you've only got a little bit, then we just do the face. Now we are ready to shroud him. Now for men, there are 3, and for women there are 5. And when you see the men's 3, then you can understand why women will have 2 extra. So now what we would normally do is we keep his aura covered. We get a towel now and we dry him. And you transport him carefully, so then you would have like a stretcher kind of thing here. And you'd lift him onto another platform, which is now dry. The first one is wet because soap and water and everything. So now we're on a dry platform, and we've already laid out the shroud. There are 3 pieces. One here, so we get the bottom half and you tie it there. One here at the top, so we wrap him like that. And then one last one where we would wrap him, so we'd start from the right and then like that, right? The top here, we will make a fastening there. Make a fastening here, so you'll have a piece of string underneath like that. You fasten in there. Piece of string here, fasten that. Why do you keep putting your foot? And then we fasten the feet together. So now the body stays still and it's shrouded. Now we take him to the graveyard. And before we lower him now, is we remove the knots. We keep the fastening there, but we loosen the knots and then we lower him down. There are 2 types of grave. There's the shaq type of grave, which is that he's buried like this. And then there's the lahad type of grave, which is, really it should be an L shape. So what they do is they dig it like an L shape. So you lower him and then you push him into that L shape. Why? Because really your body should be the other way around. But really, the right hand side, do you want to just turn the other way so we can see? So now we're lowering him this way, and his face is now going to be towards the Qibla. Actually, it was the right way the first time, actually. Because your right hand side, is that your right hand? Yeah, it was the right at the first way. Anyway, just leave it now. You'll be facing the Qibla, and because it's an L shape, you're tucked into the grave. So then now what they'll do is they'll support your back, and then they'll fill on top. So that's when they're putting earth onto your body, into the grave, it's not landing on his body. We don't have that in this country. So the lahad type that they do is that they lower the deceased into the grave like this, and this is why you will see people going down and they will put, boulders or large lumps of earth or even bricks or something like that underneath to support his back so his body doesn't fall. Yeah? So they will have something supporting. And then what they do now as well is they will put planks of wood on top. Yeah? So the back is filled up, planks of wood on top, and then they fill the grave up with earth. Huh? Was it painful?
Yes.
That's the burial, but we haven't done the salah. Like I said, we've got a number of questions on the salah. Okay, let's just revise the salah very quickly. How do we perform the salah? How many takbeerat are there? Salah? 4 takbeerat. What's after the first one? Second one? Taslim. Durud Ibrahimi. Number 3? Allahu Akbar. Number 3? Dua for the deceased. And then number 4? Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum. You got a question?
Do you stand by his bed?
Okay, so if it's for a male, where do you stand?
Body. Head.
At the head. And if it's for a female, you stand at the waist. Right. Okay. Question number 6. Salat al-Ghaa'ib. Salat al-Ghaa'ib is where you are performing the Salat al-Janazah when the deceased is not there. And the Prophet ﷺ did this for Najashi. Najashi passed away in Ethiopia. The Prophet ﷺ was in Medina, and he stood, he put the Muslims in rows, and he said, your brother Najashi has passed away, and we're going to pray over him. Now, the Shaykh has asked this question, when do we pray over the deceased in this way, when the deceased is not present? The Shaykh says, number 1, this is the view of the majority of the ulama, is that if the deceased has been prayed over, then nobody prays over him again. So say, for example, you've got a family member that lives in a different city, and people have done the shrouding and the janazah and everything's been completed. There is no separate janazah in your city or somewhere else, or in a different country or anything like that. This is because if they've been prayed over, that's it, it's finished. There's no repeat of that. The Shaykh then says, Salat al-Ghaa'ib there are 3 opinions on this then. Number 1, those who are not being prayed over. Number 2, those people who supported the religion, such as scholars, such as rulers, such as people who have done something for the religion. If you hear of an Imam or somebody, who has supported the religion pass away in a different country, even though that they've done Salat al-Janazah for them over there, you can do one. You can do one here as well. And then there's another view, and this is the view of the Shafi'i, but the Shaykh says that this view is weak, that you can always do Salat al-Ghaa'ib. But what seems to be more correct is what the Shaykh is saying here, is that if they haven't been prayed over, then it remains as a fard kifaya for the Muslims. Somebody needs to pray over these people and make dua for them, etc. And if the person is a person who supported the religion and helped aid the religion, etc., then inshallah you can do that as well. Question number 7, who is the person that leads? We just talked about that while we were doing the demonstration. Last week we also talked about question number 8, so we don't really need to repeat it. But let me just ask you guys, see if you guys can remember. There's more than one deceased. Okay, so we've got this person pass away. Isa, can you lay down next to him? And we need a girl. Sultana? No? Okay, he's going to be our girl. So now, he's lay down. We need an Imam. Salah's going to be the Imam. Sultan, how are you going to lay down? Okay, how's he going to arrange it? So the men, right? So now look, the men are like this. The female, the Imam's going to stand at the waist. Now, where does the Imam stand?
Here.
Ah, that's wrong. Because men, women, children, closest to the Imam. So you should be standing here. Yeah? So now the Qibla's that way. Right? So men are closest to the Imam, then women, and then children. The question that is asked to the Shaykh, there's more than one deceased. Who is placed closest to the Imam? The Shaykh says men, then women, then children, and even with the children, boys before girls. Now, when it comes to men and women in each category, the Shaykh says the most pious and the most knowledgeable is placed before the others. And the evidence for that is that at Uhud, when they had to dig bigger graves, they put the people who knew most Qur'an before those people who knew less Qur'an. Question number 9, where does the Imam stand? But we've already got a demonstration of that. This is where he stands. So now before he starts the Salah, question number 10, what's the ruling on informing the congregation of the gender of the deceased? And you find this in the Haram. Salatul Mayyit, Salatul Atfal, the caller will call out and said there's going to be a Salatul Janazah over the Mayyit. That means adults. But sometimes he will say Salatul Atfal, Irhamukumullah. It's just children now. So the Shaykh has asked this question. Is it permissible? Is this something that we should be doing? The Shaykh said there's no problem in this. And the reason why is because the people, the Imam and the people praying upon the deceased, would then know how to make dua. If it's children, there's a specific dua for that. If it's a male, then they change the pronouns accordingly. Question number 11. How do you arrange the deceased if there's no space? Alhamdulillah, we've got no space here.
Put it together.
But what you do is, as the Shaykh says, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. You do the best that you can do, according to the arrangement that you have here. Question number 12. Does a bigger congregation benefit the deceased? Now this is actually very important, because when we go to pray Salat al-Janazah, a lot of people, they line up as they would do in Salah, and this is good. But the fuqaha have mentioned that having more rows is better than having longer rows. Does that make sense? So say you got 100 people and you can make 5 rows, 20 people in each row. Would it be better to have 5 rows or 10 rows of 10? They have said 10 rows of 10 is better. Obviously, if you end up with an odd number, it's better, so 9 rows or 11 rows or something like that. But this is what is better. So the Shaykh is saying here, that's one thing, that you have a larger number of rows. But the Shaykh is also answering this question where the person is asking about having a larger congregation. He brings us 2 hadith. The first one, مَا مِن رَجُلٍ مُسْلِمٍ يَمُوتُ. There is no Muslim that passes away. فَيَقُومُ عَلَى جَنَازَتِهِ 40 رَجُلًا. And 40 people stand over this person. لَا يُشْرِكُونَ بِاللَّهِ شَيْئًا. On the condition that they have tawheed. And they don't make shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the slightest. Which is very important, because what's sad now is people, they worship the deceased. They pray over them and then they worship them. Al-Mustan. Where's the logic in that? The Prophet ﷺ is saying here, لا يشركون بالله شيئا إلا شفعهم الله فيه. Except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept their intercession, and whatever they pray for this deceased in this Salat al-Janazah, Allah will grant it for them. That's one hadith. But the point where we are saying here, having a larger congregation, how a larger number of rows or more rows is better, is found in another hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, مَا مِن مَن يُسَلِّي عَلَيْهِ أُمَّةٌ مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ يَبْلُغُونَ مِئَةً. There's no group of people that gather to pray upon the deceased and they've reached 100 people. كُلُّهُمْ يُشْفَعُونَ لَهُ إِلَّا شَفَعُوا فِيهِ. All of them making dua, اللهم اغفر له, اللهم ارحمه, اللهم اغفر له, اللهم ارحمه, اللهم قنه عذاب النار, making dua, forgive him, mercy on him, protect him from the punishment of the grave, etc. He said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept the intercession. Right, so now you're going to stand. Question number 15. What's the ruling on the Fatiha for the Imam? We did this question last week as well. Is it a must? Is it a must? Are you sure? If you don't do the Fatiha, then what?
It's not counted because every salah has to begin with Fatiha.
Every single salah, the pillar is, or the Fatiha is a pillar. The Hanafi say you don't do the Fatiha at all. And this is, again, we talked about this last week. This is important because most of the times you'll be praying behind a person who's following the Hanafi madhab. With all due respect, like we said, we talked about this last week. And they might not do it. So you have to do it very quickly. Can a person recite a surah after the Fatiha? Question number 13. The Shaykh is saying there's no harm in it. However, the salah is supposed to be short. Therefore, the fuqaha have mentioned you're not even supposed to do istiftah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Allahu Akbar. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim wa lad-dallin, to the end. That's it. So you shouldn't have anything added to it. But the Shaykh is saying if the person did do it, then there's no harm. Question number 14. What's the dua for the children? For children who have passed away. The Shaykh gives us that. Again, you will find that in Hisn al-Muslim. But the Shaykh gives us the hadith. اللهم اجعله ذخرة لوالديه وفرة وشفيعا مجابا اللهم ثقل به موازينهما وأذن به أجورهما وألحق بالصالح السلف المؤمنين واجعله في كفالة إبراهيم وقه برحمتك عذاب الجحيم. You will find this in Hisn al-Muslim. But the Shaykh is saying here the matter is broad. But if you look at this dua, it's actually very nice. Oh Allah, make them, the children that have passed away, make them as a treasure which is stored for the parents. Make them an interceder for the parents. Oh Allah, make the children and the parents of the children, should we say, have heavy scales on the Day of Judgment. Oh Allah, allow them to join the Salaf al-Mu'mineen, meaning the believers that have already passed away. and make these children that have passed away now under the guardianship of Ibrahim. The Prophet ﷺ, when he went on Mi'raj, he saw Ibrahim in the 7th Jannah, and he saw him with his back leaning to the Bayt al-Ma'mur, and he had children of the mushrikeen with him. This dua where you're saying, oh Allah, give them that peace and that security and that good companionship with Ibrahim alayhi salam. Question number 16. So now he's led the salah. So lead the salah. Come on. Abdullah, stand up. Do takbir. Allahu Akbar. What are you doing? Fatiha. You done Fatiha? Say Allahu Akbar. Abdullah, come. Abdullah has now joined. Say Allahu Akbar quickly. Now he's doing Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Abdullah has just joined. What does he do? What does he do? Are you going to join or are you going to walk off? Join. Say Allahu Akbar. Good. We've got 2 Abdullahs now. So do Allahu Akbar, Abdullah. Now what are you going to recite? You're on your first takbeerah. So you're doing Fatiha, he's doing Durood. Allahu Akbar. Say. So now what are you doing, Saleh? Dua. You do Allahu Akbar with him, obviously, because you're following the Imam. What are you doing now? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Allahu Akbar. Saleh. You do Allahu Akbar with him. What are you doing now? Dua. What are you doing now? Taslim. Do it then. Louder so people can hear. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. What do you do now, Abdullah? Allahu Akbar. And then Taslim. So everybody get that, yeah? If the Shaykh is asked, if a person misses a takbeerah, what does he do? He enters the salah with the Imam, and for him it's not going to be different. Just like Dhuhr, if you came late, it's your first rak'ah, but it's the Imam's third rak'ah, 4 rak'ah. And then he makes up what has been missed. This is due to generality where the Prophet ﷺ said, مَا أَدْرَكْتُمْ فَصَلُّوا. When you come, whatever you find the Imam is doing, pray with him. And when he finishes, complete it. This is on the condition, the Shaykh says, that he thinks that the deceased haven't been lifted. And this is what happens in the haram, straight away they're lifted. If you're 3 takbirat behind the Imam, then the Shaykh says just make taslim. And this is what the Hanabila have said, because you're not praying over anyone now. Right. When is it prohibited to pray Salat al-Janazah? The Shaykh says that there are 3 times when it's not permissible. And the question is asking after Salat al-Fajr, after Salat al-Asr. These are times when you shouldn't be praying, but in the haram we find it. So what's the ruling on that? The Shaykh said that there are 3 times when it's forbidden to pray Salat al-Janazah. Number 1, when the sun is rising, at the time when the sun is rising. We're not saying after Fajr, we're talking about the time of Shuruq itself. So I believe it's what, 6 o'clock? Yeah. Something like that. So you can't pray Salat al-Janazah. You're now ready, you're in the graveyard, the shrouding, everything is completed. The grave has been dug. You're just waiting to pray. 5:50 you can't. 5:55 you can't. 6 o'clock you can't. When can you pray now? 6:15, 6:20. If we're saying that at 6 o'clock, right? Sunset, same ruling. So 5-10 minutes before Maghrib, as soon as the sun has set, now you can pray the Salat al-Janazah. But obviously now here in this scenario, what you would do is you do the wajib, the fard al-ain, before the fard al-kifaya. So imagine that the sun is now eclipsing, but it's time for Asr, or it's time for Maghrib. What do you do first? You do the fard prayer, the fard al-ain, and then if there's time left over, then you do the eclipse prayer. And this is the same thing here. And then the third time when it's not permissible, so sunrise, sunset, and at the zawal. So Dhuhr begins at 3:05. So between 12:55 and 3:05, 12:55 and 1:05, I looked at the 30, 1:05, there is no Salat al-Janazah. I think we'll stop here. This is question number 17. Inshallah, next week we'll continue from question number 18. But like I said, the classes take place on a Friday, not on a Saturday. But shall we just leave it on Saturday? And should we just do it every Saturday?
Yeah, because everybody's here as well.
Should we just do it that way? Is that alright? Every Saturday after Dhuhr. Huh?
seventh Jannah.
Yeah. Seventh Jannah, Jazakallah. Seventh heaven, yeah. Jazakallah. Yeah.
You know when they, in the will, when they ask, they want to, like, for example, they want Mr. Tabor to do the Janazah and everything. What if they ask for something that the people like can't do? For example, I want to do it in Medina.
Yeah, you can't do it then. If a person leaves behind a will, the will cannot be changed unless in two scenarios. Number one, what they have done in the will or they asked for in the will is haram. So if they've left behind a will where there is dhulm, where they say, okay, I want this person to be given half of my wealth, or I want my wealth to go towards something haram, or after I pass away I want people to do khatam and all these different things. If there is something which is not permissible, then that part of the will is not to be executed. And then the second thing is that the will, for those people who are left behind, who are the heirs, they establish it according to their ability. So if they've said, I want it to be in Medina, and you can't do that, then you can't do it.
If they can't do it in this place where they ask, who would do it in that scenario?
Then you look at the next closest thing, or the thing that is that you are able to do. Yeah.
You know how child, how do you know the men, women, and child? What does the child lay down if it's a female or a male?
Same. So if you've got children who are boys and children who are girls, the boys, the Imam will stand at the head, and children, females, will be at the waist. Yes.
What if it's like a child that has like a higher rank or like higher than an adult?
It's still the same. But that's a good question. So now, say you've got a child who's really pious, memorized more, and he's better than the adult. Then what do we do in that scenario? Still, men, women, children, but within the category, he will be brought closer to the Imam. So now this is important. When we're praying Salah, the closer you are to the Qibla is better. That's why the first saf is better than the second saf. Why? Because you're closer to the Qibla. But when we're praying Salat al-Janazah, the closer you are to the Imam is better. So these people here are close to the Imam, but they're furthest away from the Qibla. The children are closest to the Qibla. So in Janazah, it's the opposite. Barakallah feekum. You can wake up now. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He grants us the best of tawfiq and success. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika.